See if I can get this record here, record to this computer. Record to the cloud. And okay, we're streaming, it looks like. At least it's broadcasting. Let me see if I can get this over here to see if it's actually live streaming. There it goes on my recorder. Okay, it looks like, let me redo this. I hate to do all this stuff right at the beginning. I've got 4 different things streaming to. Okay, we're ready to go. Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Roger Paul, and tonight we are going to start a new paper 15101, and it's called Tarrying and Teaching by the Sea. And that's on page 1688.3 of the original book, or 15101 on all the rest of the books. So let me advance the slide here and we'll get started. Probably just a couple of us reading tonight because a couple of our people are sick. So, all right, here we go. Paper 151, Tarrying and Teaching by the Seaside. By March 10th, all of the preaching and teaching groups had foregathered at Bethsaida. Thursday night and Friday, many of them went out to fish, while on the Sabbath day they attended the synagogue to hear an aged Jew of Damascus discourse on the glory of the father Abraham. Jesus spent most of the Sabbath day alone in the hills. That Saturday night, the master talked for more than an hour on to the assembled groups on the mission of adversity and the spiritual value of disappointment. This was a memorable occasion, and his hearers never forgot the lesson he imparted. Okay, so he basically went off on Sabbath while the rest of the group went to Sabbath and had a little talk with his father. Okay, and this is the map of this period of time, all the places they went. We're going to go through that. All right, and here we go. Diane.
Jesus had not fully recovered from the sorrow of his recent rejection at Nazareth. The apostles were aware of a peculiar sadness mingled with his usual cheerful. His usual cheerful demeanor. James and John were with him much of the time. Peter being more than occupied with the many responsibilities having to do with the welfare and direction of the new corps of evangelists. This time of waiting before starting for the Passover at Jerusalem, the women spent in visiting with house to house, teaching the gospel and ministering to the sick in Capernaum and the surrounding cities and villages.
See, okay, you notice that the women's going out working when the men, it's kind of, sloughing off a little bit. All right, Rodney, would you take the next one?
It's interesting, teachings by the seaside when it's a big lake.
Yeah, I know. I've thought of that myself many times.
But it is the Sea of Galilee.
Sea of Galilee, but
Okay.
you want to get technical, right?
So on the parable of the sower. About this time, Jesus first began to employ the parable method of teaching the multitudes that so frequently gathered about him. Since Jesus had talked with the apostles and others long into the night, on this Sunday morning, very few of the group were up for breakfast. So he went out by the seaside and sat alone in the boat, the old fishing boat of Andrew and Peter, which was always kept at his disposal, and meditated on the next move to be made in the work of extending the kingdom. But the master was not to be alone for long. Very soon the people from Capernaum and nearby villages began to arrive. And by 10 o'clock that morning, almost 1,000 were assembled on shore near Jesus' boat and were clamoring for attention. Peter was now up and making his way to the boat, said to Jesus, "Master, shall I talk to them?" And Jesus answered, "No, Peter, I will tell them a story." And then Jesus began the recital of the parable of the sower, one of the first of a long series of such parables which he taught the throngs that followed after him. This boat had an elevated seat on which he sat, for it was the custom to sit when teaching, while he talked to the crowd assembled along the shore. After Peter had spoken a few words, Jesus said,
Okay, so Jesus was sitting in a boat, a fishing boat, really, because there were so many people there clamoring about him. So he was getting ready to teach him from the boat. All right, my turn again. And I'm going to look down and do this from my computer because I can see it a little bit. That's a little dark, isn't it?
It is dark.
a little bit.
Okay. A sower went forth to sow, and it came to pass as he sowed that some seed fell by the wayside, to be trodden under foot and devoured by the birds of heaven. Other seed fell upon the rocky places where there was little earth, and immediately it sprang up because there was no depth to the soil. But as soon as the sun shone, it withered because it had no root whereby to secure moisture. Other seed fell among the thorns, and as the thorns grew up, it was choked so that it yielded no grain. Still other seed fell upon good ground, and growing, yielding some 30-fold, some 60-fold, and some 100-fold. And when he had finished speaking this parable, he said to the multitude, "He who has ears to hear, let him hear." Now, you're going to find out tonight, I'm not going to explain any of this. Let me tell you why. Because we're going to go in great detail during this paper about the interpretation of this parable. Okay, so I'm not going to say anything about this. All right, Diane.
The apostles and those who were with them, when they heard Jesus teach the people in this manner, were greatly perplexed. And after much talking among themselves that evening in the Zebedee garden, Matthew said to Jesus, "Master, what is the meaning of the dark sayings which you present to the multitude? Why do you speak in parables to those who seek the truth?" And Jesus answered,
Okay, and we're going to find out the explanation of this one in this. Rodney, can you read that okay?
Yes. "In patience have I instructed you all this time. To you it is given to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, but to the undiscerning multitudes and to those who seek our destruction, from now on the mysteries of the kingdom shall be presented in parables. And this we will do so that those who really desire to enter the kingdom may, may
Better?
discern the meaning, much better, may discern the meaning of the teaching and thus find salvation, while those who listen only to ensnare us may be the more confounded, and that they will see without seeing and hear without hearing. My children, do you not perceive the law of the Spirit, which decrees that him who has shall be given, so that he shall have an abundance? But from him who has not shall be taken away even that which he has. Therefore, while I henceforth speak to the people much in parables, to the end that our friends And those who desire to know the truth may find that which they seek, while our enemies and those who love not the truth may hear without understanding. Many of these people follow not in the way of truth. The prophet did, indeed, describe all such undiscerning souls when he said, "For this people's heart was waxed gross, and their ears are dull of hearing, and their eyes they have closed, lest they should discern the truth and understand it in their hearts."
Okay, so do you understand what Jesus is saying here? He basically is saying he's going to put his lessons out there so that those who have spiritual discernment will be able to understand the lessons. Okay, and those that are just out to get him and do things against him will be dumbfounded, basically. Okay,
Yeah.
they won't understand what he's saying. So it's a perfect way to reveal his message to folks without getting himself in trouble and the apostles in trouble also. Okay. All right. We had the strange man uh, join us.
Yeah. Looks like someone from North Carolina.
Yeah. Looks like Gary, doesn't
Hey.
it? Hey, Gary, you want to take the next one, man?
Yes, my size.
Yeah.
The apostles did not fully comprehend the significance of the Master's words. As Andrew and Thomas talked further with Jesus, Peter and the other apostles withdrew to another portion of the garden where they engaged in earnest and prolonged discussion.
All right. So here's where it starts. All right, y'all. And I want you to kind of follow along with me on this. All right, interpretation of the parable. Now that you're going to hear about three different interpretations of this parable from the apostles, okay? And then Jesus kind of explains the whole thing. So here we go. Interpretation of the parable. Peter and the group about him came to the conclusion that the parable of the sower was an allegory, that each feature had some hidden meaning, and so they decided to go to Jesus and ask for an explanation. Accordingly, Peter approached the master saying, "We are not able to penetrate the meaning of this parable, and we desire that you explain it to us, since you say it is given to us to know the mysteries of the kingdom." And when Jesus heard this, he said to Peter, "My son, I desire to withhold nothing from you, but first suppose you tell me what you have been talking about. What is your interpretation of the parable?" Okay, here we go. All right, Diane.
After a moment of silence, Peter said, "Master, we have talked much concerning the parable, and this is the interpretation I have decided upon. The sower is the gospel preacher. The seed is the word of God. The seed which fell by the wayside represents those who do not understand the gospel teaching. The birds which snatched away the seed that fell from the hardened ground represent Satan, or the evil one, who steals away that which has been sown in the hearts of these ignorant ones. The seed which fell upon the rocky places and which sprang up so suddenly represents those superficial and unthinking persons who, when they hear the glad tidings, receive the message of joy. But because the truth has no real root in their deeper understanding, their devotion is short-lived in the face of tribulation and persecution. When trouble comes, these believers stumble. They fall away from tempted. The seed which fell among thorns represents those who hear the word willingly, but who allow the cares of the world and the deceitfulness of riches to choke the word of truth, so that it becomes unfruitful. Now the seed which fell on good ground and sprang up to bear some 30, some 60, and some 100-fold, represents those who, when they have heard the truth, receive it with very degrees of appreciation, owing to differing intellectual endowments. The hence manifest these very degrees of religious experience.
Pretty good interpretation, wasn't it?
Well, it's funny because with me growing up as a kid in Sunday school, this is how it was explained to me.
Yeah.
It's what the parable meant.
Yeah, yeah. And we're going to see a different interpretation in a minute, but this is really a very good interpretation. All right. Rodney, takes the next one, please.
Jesus, after listening to Peter's interpretation of the parable, asked the other apostles if they did not also have suggestions to offer. To this invitation, only Nathaniel responded. Said he, Master, while I recognize many good things about Simon Peter's interpretation of the parable, I do not fully agree with him. My idea of this parable would be the seed represents the gospel of the kingdom, while the sower stands for the messengers of the kingdom. The seed which fell by the wayside on hardened ground represents those who have heard but little of the gospel, along with those who are indifferent to the message and who have hardened their hearts. The birds of the sky that snatched away the seed which fell by the wayside represent one's habits of life, the temptation of evil, and the desires of the flesh. The seed which fell among the rocks stands for those emotional souls who are quick to receive new teaching and equally quick to give up the truth when confronted with the difficulties and realities of living up to this truth. They lack spiritual perception. The seed which fell among the thorns represents those who are attracted to the truths of the gospel. They are minded to follow its teachings, but they are prevented by the pride of life, jealousy, envy, and the anxieties of human existence. The seed which fell on good soil, springing up to bear, some 30, some 60, and some 100-fold, represents the natural and varying degrees of ability to comprehend truth and respond to its spiritual teachings by men and women who possess diverse endowments of spirit illumination.
So this interpretation is very good too, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Can you tell me the difference between Peter's and Nathaniel's?
Yes, because Peter is giving his interpretation of the parable as the Spirit of truth, well, not the Spirit of truth, but as the Holy Spirit is teaching Peter from the outside in. Okay. In the same way with Daniel. Now, their interpretation will be different according to their natural spiritual gifts. Okay. And this is why Jesus wanted to teach in this format, because each person that hears the message is going to retain something a little bit different from the message.
Correct.
Okay. And by teaching this way, each individual has a personal, specialized message that they receive in their heart and soul. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is a great way to teach. That way, each person is individually getting something special. All right. Gary, would you take the next one?
When Nathaniel had finished speaking, the apostles and their associates fell into serious discussion and engaged in earnest debate, some contending for the correctness of Peter's interpretation, while almost an equal number sought to defend Nathaniel's explanation of the parable. Meanwhile, Peter and Nathaniel had withdrawn to the house where they were involved in a rigorous and determined effort, the one to convince and change the mind of the other.
Okay, so they started an opposition of each other, didn't they?
Yeah.
Okay. And instead of just letting the parable be interpreted by the person and letting it influence that person, they're trying to convince them of their way of looking at it, which is not a correct. Now, at the end of this parable, Jesus tells what his intent was. Okay. So neither one of these interpretations is wrong because of the spirit within each one of these individuals has explained it to them in a way and a use that they could personally use. All right. Okay. Let's go on to the next one, which is me. Right? All right.
Yes.
Give me 1 second here. Let me fix something. Okay, might make it a little easier for you all to see. Okay, let's see if it comes up on the other one here. Looks like it's going to change. Okay, here we go. The master permitted this confusion to pass the point of most intense expression. Then he clapped his hands and called them about him. When they had all gathered around him once more, he said, "Before I tell you about this parable," he didn't say the interpretation, did he? He said, "Before I tell you about this parable, do any of you have aught to say?" Following a moment of silence, Thomas spoke up and said, "Yes, Master, I wish to say a few words. I remembered that you once told us to beware of this very thing. You instructed us that when using illustrations for preaching, we should employ true stories, not fables, and that we should select a story best suited to the illustration of one central and vital truth which we wish to teach the people, and that having used this story, we should not attempt to make a spiritual application of all the minor details involved in the telling of the story. I hold that Peter and Nathaniel are both wrong in the attempts to interpret this parable. I admire their ability to do these things, but I am equally sure that all such attempts to make a natural parable yield spiritual analogies. There's where it is. When you turn it into an analogy, it's no longer a parable, is it? Okay. In all its features can only result in confusion and serious misconception of the true purpose of such parable. That I am right is fully approved by the fact that whereas we were all of one mind an hour ago, now we are divided into two separate groups who hold two different opinions. My opinion, with the ability fully to grasp the great truth which you had in mind when you presented this parable to the multitude, and subsequently ask us to make comment about it. All right. So there's a third interpretation, really, a third opinion about it, right? All right, Diane.
The words which Thomas spoke had a quieting effect on all of them. He caused them to recall what Jesus had taught them on former occasions. And before Jesus resumed speaking, Andrew arose, saying, "I am persuaded that Thomas is right, and I would like to have him tell us what meaning he attaches to the parable of the sower." After Jesus had beckoned Thomas to speak, he said, "My brethren, I did not wish to prolong this discussion, but if you so desire, I will say that I think this parable has spoken to teach us one great truth, and that is that our teaching of the gospel of the kingdom, no matter how faithfully and efficiently we execute our divine commissions, is going to be attended by very varying degrees of success, and that all such differences in results are directly due to conditions inherent in the circumstances of our ministry, conditions over which we have little or no control.
There we go.
It
Okay,
sounds
what's
like
one
we've
of
got three.
what's the condition they're talking about here?
Is that a question?
Yeah, what's
What
the
was that?
I said, what is the condition they're talking about? The condition he's talking about here is that each one of us has different spiritual experiences, don't we? So we look at life according to our past experiences and our spiritual teachings over the years. So our interpretation of anything anybody tries to tell us is going to be changed by our personal experience in life.
Mhm.
And this is
Okay.
good.
Yeah, which is good. So every single person that hears the gospel will receive it in a totally different way. No two people will receive the gospel at 100% the same, right?
What you're saying then, the teaching by use of a parable will get to the most people because of the universal appeal, although it's varying, it will be somewhat on point.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did I say that well?
You
Yeah.
said it great. Now, there's certain concepts that you don't need a parable for, do you? And that is what? The fatherhood of God and the brotherhood of man. Okay. Let me tell you why. Because the fatherhood of God and the brotherhood of man is a statement of total, unadulterated truth. Okay. And you can teach that straight out just the way it is and not make any variations whatsoever, as long as people understand that they are children of the living God and that they are all brothers and sisters and they should love one another just like they love God and just like God loves us. You can't get any more simple than that, can you?
Yeah.
You got to remember, we're not a smart species, so it has to be simple.
Yeah. That's true. That is very true. All right. Let's see here. Let's go back here. Let me fix the text on this.
Okay.
Is it
I
my
should have
turn?
done this ahead of time. I didn't even think of it. When I read this by myself, it's fine because I'm sitting here in front of my own computer. So
No.
is that a little better?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, let's go.
Whose turn?
So
Rodney.
when Thomas had finished speaking, the majority of his fellow preachers were about ready to agree with him. Even Peter and Nathaniel were on their way over to speak with him when Jesus arose and said, "Well done, Thomas. You have discerned the true meaning of parables." But both Peter and Nathaniel have done you all equal good in that they have so fully shown the danger of undertaking to make an allegory out of my parables. In your own hearts, you may often profitably engage in such flights of the speculative imagination, but you make a mistake when you seek to offer such conclusions as a part of your public teaching.
Now you see what he's teaching us here? It's okay if we get the interpretation of parables or whatever we're doing for our own amusement, our own edification, but when you teach the public, okay, you want to make it as straight and as matter of fact as you possibly can, right? So if you teach in a parable, you shouldn't go back and interpret it for them, should you?
Hmm.
Make sense? Just
So,
like when you teach the fatherhood of God and the brotherhood of man, you don't have to go into great lengthy
Detail.
discussion about it, because they can understand that that's a simple everything else is icing on the cake, right? If you took the Urantia book and you took all the pages out and you just had one page in the Urantia book, like the forward page, and you wrote the fatherhood of God and the brotherhood of man, you could almost do what? Get rid of the rest of the book, couldn't you?
Yeah.
Because the rest of the book is the gravy, the icing on the cake. Okay. If you get that one message, you got the whole book. You just don't
That's
have all
true.
the details, right? All right. That's pretty simple. Okay, I'm done preaching. I don't ever have to teach again, right? All right, Gary, take the next one.
Now that the tension was over, Peter and Nathaniel congratulated each other on their interpretations, and with the exception of Alphaeus, of the Alphaeus twins, each of the apostles ventured to make an interpretation of the parable of the sower before they retired for the night. Even Judas Iscariot offered a very plausible interpretation. The 12 would often, among themselves, attempt to figure out the master's parable as they would an allegory, but never again did they regard such
Speculation.
yeah, thank you. I was trying to say that. Seriously. This was a very profitable session for the apostles and their associates, especially so since from this time on, Jesus more and more employed parables in connection with his public teaching. So, what they're basically saying, which is like Peter, his interpretation is pretty well known in the Christian church.
Yeah.
And he's saying basically that's not quite right thing to do.
No, that's right. That's not a right thing to do, is it? If you teach it, you shouldn't be teaching it as anything other than what it is, the parable itself, right? You shouldn't be teaching personal interpretations of it. Now, if you want to teach and you say, this is my idea of what it says, it may be different from you, you know?
Yeah.
That's a different approach. You see what I'm saying? So if I look at Diane, I said, Diane, what do you think this is about? And she gives me something totally different. That's okay, because the parable itself stands on its own, because her interpretations, because her spiritual background. My interpretations is because my spiritual background, right?
Which tells me that you're both wrong because you don't agree with me.
That's right. You think you are. All right. Let's go on to the next one. More about parables. Now, who's up next? Oh,
You
me.
are.
Okay. More about parables. The apostles were parable minded, so much so that the whole of the next evening was devoted to the further discussion of parables. Jesus introduced the evening's conference by saying, my beloved, you must always make a difference in teaching so that you suit your presentation to the truth of the mind and hearts before you. Does that hit you in the face?
Hmm.
So you got to change your teaching depending on who you're talking to, right? If you're talking to your dog outside and you want to say, do you know God? He's going to go, woof, woof, woof. He's not going to
Or
have
if
any
you're
idea.
teaching the Alphaeus twins, you just simplify it.
Simplify it really down, right?
Mhm.
So it depends on the audience. All right. When you stand before a multitude of varying intellects and temperaments, you cannot speak different words for each class of hearers, but you can tell a story to convey your teaching. And each group, even each, here it is, individual, will be able to make his own interpretation of your parables according to his own intellect and spiritual endowments. And those vary greatly from person to person, don't they?
Mhm.
You are to let your light shine but do so with wisdom and discretion. No man, when he lights a lamp, covers it up with a vessel or puts it under the bed. He puts his lamp on a stand where all can behold the light. Let me tell you that nothing is hid in the kingdom of heaven, which you cannot be made manifest, neither are they any secrets which shall not ultimately be made known. Eventually, all these things shall come to light. Think not only of the multitudes and how they hear the truth, take heed also to yourselves how you hear. Remember that I have many times told you, to him who shall be given, to him who has shall be given more, while from him who has not shall be taken away even that which he thinks he has.
It doesn't understand. Oh, to him who has shall be given more. So if you got more money, they're going to give you more money.
No, it's got nothing to
From
do with
him,
material things. It's got
okay,
nothing to do with money or material things. It's all about spiritual endowments.
Spiritual
okay.
Okay.
He who has
perception.
a lot of spiritual understanding, while from him who has none shall be taken away even that which he thinks he has. So if you have no spiritual quest,
Yes.
you're not getting anything.
You're not getting anything. Why? Because the angels and the universe will not waste its energy on something that has no results.
Well, it
Okay?
also reverts to the basic premise that we are self-determined.
We are.
And if we don't have that quest, we aren't going to get it.
That's exactly right. And this comes back to, why do y'all think I spend hours and hours and hours and hours and hours writing books and making videos and things like that? It's
To fill your
because,
time.
huh?
To fill your time.
To fill my time. That's right. I got nothing better to do. Nice one, Rodney. I like that one. Thank you. Got absolutely nothing better to do. It's because of these people who are going on autopilot through life. If they hear one phrase, one word, one sentence that enlightens them that their spiritual life is the most important thing in their world, it's worth it, right?
Yes.
Every single one of them. Okay. And this is what Jesus is talking about. He who has shall be giving more. So he who has and is on a quest of spirituality in his life will be giving more, not only more, enough that is so overabundant that his cup will run over. Okay. That's what it's about. So if you search for
Basically, what you're
God,
going to,
you're going to find God and you're going to find everything else you could ever imagine. Right?
so what you're saying then is that when he says you will know us by our deeds,
Yes,
uh, because if you're a spiritual person, you'll act and live it. And if you aren't, you won't.
that's exactly right. Now, I saw a short before I came in. Well, I was sitting here preparing for our meeting tonight, and they had a half a dozen, almost a dozen ministers that this guy made a short about. And at the end of the short, he had one of the conservative ministers saying this is all wrong. But what they were talking about is this concept that if you pray for money and give their ministries money,
Mhm.
that God will bless you, right?
Yeah.
All right. He will give you money back, pay your bills and all this stuff. And he doesn't, because it doesn't work that way. So
All right.
stop wasting your money if you're going out there paying all these ministers these large amounts of money to keep their ministry going, because they're not teaching the word of God.
You know why that is?
Yeah.
Santa Claus was born December 21st and Jesus was not.
That's right. Okay. So we got the idea here, right? That Jesus is teaching in parables so that those who want to be spiritually blessed can be blessed by it. And those who do not want to be spiritually blessed don't understand what the heck he's saying, do they? Because they will have no interpretation of it because they have no spiritual base to refer back to.
Correct.
Make sense? Okay, I'm not talking to the sky then, am I? All right. Let's go on. Diane, you get a short one.
It sure do. The continued discussion of parables and further instruction as to their interpretation may be summarized and expressed in modern philosophy. I can't pronounce that. For phraseology as follows. Let me do that again.
All right. Let's see, Rodney.
1. Jesus advised against the use of either fables or allegories in teaching the truths of the gospel. He did recommend the free use of parables, especially nature parables. He emphasized the value of utilizing the analogy existing between the natural and the spiritual worlds as a means of teaching truth. He frequently alluded to the natural as, quote, the unreal and fleeting shadow of spirit realities.
So the natural organization of the world is a reflection of real spiritual reality when we get to the mansion worlds. Okay?
Can I ask a stupid question?
There's no such thing.
Oh, you haven't heard me yet. What's the definition of a fable or an allegories?
Okay, a fable is just a story, an untrue story that's made up to make a point. Okay, and allegory is trying to break down a story into little parts that each little part has a meaning.
Okay.
Okay,
Correct.
where a parable really should be to relay a point throughout the whole parable, right? That's why Jesus says here, natural and spiritual worlds have this connection to teaching truth because they're set up in a certain way, and you can't change the laws of nature the way it is. Okay, you can try, but it doesn't work. Make sense? Makes sense to me, but I don't know if it makes sense to anybody else. Okay, here we go. Gary, I think you're up again.
Okay. Jesus narrated 3 or 4 parables from the Hebrew scriptures, calling attention to the fact that this method of teaching was not wholly new. However, it became almost a new method of teaching as he employed it from this time onward.
Because he taught mostly in parables, right, as he went on. 3, in teaching the apostles the value of parables, Jesus called attention to the following points. I'm going to read one more since that was so short. The parable provided for a simultaneous appeal to vastly different levels of mind and spirit. Didn't we just talk about that?
Yep.
Mhm.
Okay. The parable stimulates the imagination, challenges the discrimination, and provokes critical thinking. It promotes sympathy without arousing antagonism because there's no person or thing that it's against or for. There is nothing for people to get antagonistic about, is there?
Correct.
Okay. All right, Diane.
The parable proceeds from the things which are known to the discernment of the unknown. The parable utilizes the material and natural as a means of introducing the spiritual and the supermaterial.
Okay, so it helps to utilize the concepts of the spiritual and the super material, but it does not utilize the material in such a way that it's going to boast or increase people's connection to the material world. Okay, makes sense?
Okay.
You look paused, Rodney.
No, I'm
Like
good.
you're good. Okay. All right. So it helps to introduce those things which are unknown, mostly in the spiritual and supermaterial worlds. Keep trying to use my mouse to get over here to the
Hmm.
side. It won't work there. Okay.
Parables favor the making of impartial moral decisions. The parable evades much prejudice and puts new truth gracefully in the mind and does all this with the arousal of a minimum of the self-defense of personal resentment.
Okay. And this is really important to what? Those people that are closed-minded about everything, their religion, their life, and everything else. It can put a new truth in their mind without having to attack whatever it is they believe, right?
Correct.
All right.
So to extrapolate this into the material world or political arena, if you try to make your points with the person that has or on the opposite side of the aisle as yourself, you may be wise to use a parable to maybe try to make your point.
That's very good, Gary, because what can we not do?
Change their minds.
We can't
Everybody
change the
change
mind
their
of
own.
somebody who's deaf, blind, and stupid, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you just can't do it. So you're wasting your breath and you should go on to better, more productive things, right? Makes sense?
Hmm. So you shouldn't tell somebody that's deaf, dumb, and stupid about a parable, is what you're saying?
No, I'm saying that you could use a parable with such people because they're so deaf, dumb and stupid or blind and stupid, they wouldn't understand what you're talking about in the first place.
Well, if they did understand something, that would be a start. And
Might open their
I have
way
found
to,
out in my
yeah,
life that you can't change somebody else's mind. That person's thought process that is changed is done by them.
that's right. And it has to be logical only to them, right?
Mhm.
All right. That's why political discussions in context with religious stuff doesn't work, does it? Because political discussions are straight down the line. You can't have it one way or another. It's the way they think it is, and that's all there is to it, and you can't change their mind. Where a parable will inject truth into them, and they will use their own logic and brain to relay those self into their world. And that's very, very hard to do to a materialistic person that has no spiritual life, isn't it? Why? Because the material things don't last, do they? They only last till you're 80 or 90, and one day you wake up and you go, why did I spend all this time and effort trying to collect money and things? Right? Because they don't take it with them.
Man,
Are you disappointed, Gary?
no, not really.
All right. Gary, would you take the next one?
To reject the truth contained in parabolic, par, parabolical
Parabolical. Yeah,
analogy.
analogy.
These guys are messing me up on this one.
I know.
Requires conscious intellectual action, which is directly in contempt of one's honest judgment and fair decision. Uh, the parable conducts to the forcing of thought through the sense of hearing.
Did you catch that? The forcing of thought. In other words, by introducing the parable, you put the thought in their brain and they got to process it themselves. You're not processing the thought, you're only putting the thought there.
You know what? I've just discovered how to explain how socialism is wrong to somebody without arguing with them.
All right, tell us about it.
I'm going to try to. Uh, a nobleman had two plots of land, and to Sally's social, or Sam's social, say, he gave a plot of land, and he assured him that he would compensate him for what he does, no matter how much he does.
All
So he
right.
always have a house, food, clothing, and a dog. Okay. The other plot of land he gave to Eager Beaver, and he said, "Here, this land is yours to work. I will take a certain percentage of what you earn. Anything you earn, we will share the earnings. You will share, give a certain percentage for me for the use of the land, and anything above that will be yours." And the end result, the man that Eager Beaver proffered well, and he was allowed to have his food, his house, his home, his dog, a chicken, and a goat, and a donkey.
Good.
Sam so social got by, and he never went beyond the house, and the food, and the clothing, and the dog.
Because he had no incentive to, did he?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, makes sense. All right,
Hmm.
let's go on to the next one. The use of the parable form of teaching enables the teacher to present new and even startling truths while at the same time he largely avoids all controversy and outward clashing with the tradition and established authority. And that really works with the church too, doesn't it? All right,
Can
Diane.
you go over that one more time? Excuse me, I'm sorry, my mind went blank or something. Okay.
You're muted, Roger.
Notice it says it avoids clashing with tradition and established authority. You notice
Mhm.
Jesus never clashed with the political society of his day.
Well, they thought he did.
Yeah, but he didn't, did he? Only with the
That
Jewish
was
Jews.
because they were their motivation was materialistic and not spiritual.
Yeah, that's right.
The parable also possesses the advantage of simulating the memory of the truth taught when the same familiar scenes are subsequently encountered.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sorry. Okay, so it affects the memory of things also, doesn't it? Okay, things you've remembered from past lessons. All right, Rodney.
In this way, Jesus sought to acquaint his followers with many other reasons underlying his practice of increasingly using parables in his public teaching.
So the mystery of parables is gone now, isn't it? Think about it. You wondered all these years why Jesus taught in parables, right?
Hmm. And now you know the rest of the story.
Yeah,
Now you
Paul
know the rest of the
Harvey.
story. That's not updating, is it? So that's okay. Y'all give me a second. Let me get over here. I hope that's going out okay. I think it is. All right. Have to assume it is. All right. Let's see here. Next one. Gary. Rodney, did you just take that one?
Yeah, it was short.
Okay. Gary.
Okay. Toward the close of the evening,
Whoops.
you just flipped the page on me.
Oh, sorry.
Shame on you.
Yep.
I told him, Diane, see, I got him for you.
That's
Okay.
right.
Thank you.
Toward the close of the evening's lesson, Jesus made his first comment on the parable of the sower. He said the parable referred to two things. First, that a review of his own ministry up to that point and a forecast of what lay ahead of him for the remainder of his life on earth. And second, it was also a hint as to what the apostles and other messengers of the kingdom might expect in their ministry from the generation to generation as time passes.
Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we got 3 meetings out of that thing. Or
Yeah.
4.
Well, we got we'll have at least 2, maybe 3, as they say. Right. We had one that didn't go very long. We had about, I think it was about 16 people watched last week's meeting. That was a disaster. We never got the sound straightened out. But that's okay. They can watch this now. So let's stop there because the next one is a new what did I do there?
I don't know.
I don't think
Which
we finished it.
did we finish that?
No, I don't think so. Well, you may have because
Nobody
it's
read that.
summarized. Go
Let's see
go
here.
one.
I
So
am totally lost here. They're 3:15. Hang on. I went way down. I'm way off base here. 151. 151.5? Okay. Yeah, it got way out of. I don't know what happened to that. It must have just went on its own little trip there.
You had a demonic AI.
All right. 2-1. We're on 1-5. No, not that we did that. We did that. We did that. Okay. We did that. We did that. All right.
Okay, I just did that one, so we should be
Okay,
doing the
so
next
we're on
one.
14, right?
Okay. Yeah, so it's yours, I guess.
Hang on, let me find it on my thing here. 314. I was in the right neighborhood, but on the wrong slide down here. I was trying to go ahead and knock off any other. Okay, yeah, we got 2 more slides. Let's knock them out real quick here, y'all. All right. Before he dismissed the group for the night, Jesus said,
You
Just
flipped
jump.
it.
we did that one, didn't we?
You flipped it.
You flipped it.
Oh, okay.
Now you're going. There you're going.
This is mine.
Yep.
Yeah, it must be.
Okay, Jesus also reported to the use of parables as the best possible refutation of the studied effort of the religious leaders at Jerusalem to teach that all of his works was done by the assistance of demons and the prince of devils. The appeal to nature was in contravention of such teaching, since the people of that day looked upon all natural phenomena as the product of the direct act of spiritual beings and the supernatural forces. He also determined upon his method of teaching because it enabled him to proclaim vital truth to those who desire to know the better way, while at the same time affording his enemies less opportunity to find cause for offense and for accusations against him. So it was part of the defense mechanism for Jesus too. All right. Dear, would you take the next one?
Before he dismissed the group for the night, Jesus said, "Now will I tell you the last of the parable of the sower. I would test you to know how you will receive this. The kingdom of heaven is also like a man who cast good seed upon the earth. And while he slept by night and went about his business by day, these seeds sprang up and grew. And although he knew not how it came about, the plant came to fruit. First, there was the blade, then the ear, then the full grain in the ear. And then, when the grain was ripe, he put forth the sickle, and the harvest was finished. He who has an ear to hear, let him hear.
Okay, and he does not describe this. Okay, what this means. Did you notice this?
Yeah.
Mhm.
You have to interpret it yourself. Okay, we got one more paragraph and then this section's over. So, Rodney, would you take it?
Many times did the apostles turn the saying over in their minds, but the Master never made further mention of this addition to the parable of the sower.
Okay, so he didn't mention it again and they didn't bring it back up. Okay. Now, next time we'll look at more parables by the sea, and we are out of time. So let's go over here to the prayer of acceptance real quick. And I will read this. I'm going to leave my hearing here for y'all because I switched it over. So I'll read it. Prayer of acceptance. I believe that God is my paradise Father, and only by faith am I saved. No sacrifice is necessary. By this same faith, I became a child of God, know that all men and women are my brothers and sisters. We know the Son of God, the sovereign of our universe of Nebadon, is Christ Michael, Jesus of Nazareth. By allowing the will of God to become my will, I will someday stand in the presence of the Paradise Father. In the name of Christ Michael, Jesus of Nazareth. Amen. And thank
Amen.
you all. Hey, I did hear you. I still can't hear you. I don't know what happened.
Can't hear us?
I can hear you. Yeah.
Oh,
Every other time I did this, I
right.
lost my sound. So we're a little bit over, so we will sign off. It's only 1 minute. I hope I didn't upset anybody.
Yeah.
So thank you all for joining us at home. Thank you all for listening to us out there. If you're on YouTube, please subscribe and share this. If you're on X, go ahead and follow me because I don't have any followers on X yet. I just started doing this on X this last couple of weeks. So follow us on X and follow us on Facebook if you're listening to us on Facebook. So that way we got the numbers and we can spread it for more and more and more and more. Thank you. We love you.
Thank you, Roger.
You're welcome. And I'll see
Thank you.
everybody Thursday, right?
Okay.
Yep,
All right.
I plan to be here.
Okay. See everybody then. All right. Good
Goodbye.
night, everybody.